So now we did talk about the God and the Quran. And of course, when I say the Quran, that means I would also request you to touch on the other books of the God.
Yeah.
Um, so,
So yeah, I mean, this is another subject. Like I said earlier, we can go on talking forever on these things. There's so much knowledge, and the Quran says that the words of God will never end. Even if you had all the trees as pens and all the seas as the ink, and after that he added seas, it's not going to end. The words of God will never end. Yeah, just from the Quran, let alone the other books. Yeah, and the Injil is much more eloquent than the Quran in explaining things, and the evidence is in the Quran. You can read the last sign of chapter, I believe it's 48. I think it is the last. Yeah, we can actually bring it up and read that sign to give the example of where it is clearly more eloquent than the Quran in that particular example, pointing to the fact that it's eloquent.
yep. So let me just add that here. Chapter 48.
Yeah. So this is the last sign of chapter 48, where it is confirmed that Muhammad is messenger of God as well.
Mm.
Yes, Muhammad is messenger of the God. All right. But you don't have to say the kalima to become a Muslim. These people say, oh, look, it's written Muhammadur Rasulullah and it's written La ilaha illallah in the Quran. So the kalima is good. That's how it's good to say that in past conversation. Sure. I can say no God except God and Jesus is messenger of God. And no God except God and Moses is messenger of God. And I can say no God except God and Muhammad is messenger of God. But to become Muslim, don't tell me how to do that. Then you can go to hell. And that's why these people are not Muslims. They say, what's wrong with this? Saying that. No, I'm saying it's an absolute lie because you force people to recite that to become a Muslim. That is absolute lie. The only thing you need to say is Aslamtu li Rabbil Alameen. I submit to Lord of the Knowing. That's how you become a Muslim, nothing else. Yeah, not by saying I believe there's a God. That doesn't make you submit to God. You
Mm.
must say, I submit to the God from your heart, not your mouth. Nothing matters what comes out of your mouth. It is your heart that needs to accept and submit, and your soul before that. Yeah. Anyway,
Mm.
so this sign, it says Muhammad, messenger of the God, and those with him severe over the rejectors. So where's the mercy here? Those with Muhammad are, so you are going to reject me, and I'm the messenger of God, and you want me to be merciful to you, while
Hmm.
those who are with me or Muhammad are going to be severe over you. So whoever's with me will be severe over those who reject me. And this applies
Hmm.
to every messenger and God and all the angels, everybody else. Merciful between themselves. There's the mercy. We are
Hmm.
merciful between ourselves, even though we fight and argue, by the way.
Yeah. So
So
it's like
yes,
he. So it's like if I would come to you and say I accept this and I want to follow this, then
yeah.
there would be some mercy.
Of course. If you
Yeah.
say that, but then when you prove that you're not, then there will be any mercy after that,
Yeah,
which
that's
most
true.
people do. Right.
Yeah.
They come and tell me, I want to learn this. Teach me. And then when I start teaching them, and it becomes hard for them, and they can't understand what I'm saying because they can't. They don't have the intellect. They don't have the wisdom. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the depth of soul. Then they run away, saying, I can't make this out. This is all nonsense. That's what happens to most of mankind when they come to the Quran. Same thing. They can't understand it, so they run away. So anyway, you see them bowing, prostrating. They're seeking grace from the God and happiness. That's us. Yeah. Oh, that means you got to put your head to the ground. Yeah. And bowing is you got to bend down 90 degrees like this. Yeah. I don't see any of that in the Quran, by the way. You can bow as you wish. You can prostrate as you wish. Yeah. As is good for you, you prostrate like that. And it's good for you, you bow like that. Yeah. The seeking of God's grace and happiness is what you want, not the exactitude of how you prostrate and how you bow. This is all nonsense. Yeah. There are marks in their faces from remnants of the prostrations. Oh, that's why you see the mark up here of the Muslims. They have a big black mark here because they bang their head on the ground. That's the mark. Okay? That's the mark. Don't tell me it's not. Don't tell me it's not. That's the mark. It's there. That's the mark of my prostration. Remnants of the prostration. This mark, look up here. Yeah, it could be. I mean, if you think prostration is banging your head on the ground, sure, that's going to be the remnant of that prostration. But that's not the prostration remnant God is talking about here, by the way. This is a metaphor. Metaphor. It is the bliss in your face. When you prostrate to God and you submit to God, it's the bliss that appears on your face. Those are the marks God is talking about here. Yes, of course, if you bang your head on the ground, then that's the mark. That's the mark of your prostration. But have you actually prostrated to God? Because that doesn't mean this, by the way. By banging your head on the ground does not mean you've prostrated to God. This is all nonsense. Okay?
It's the heart.
That, yeah, it's the heart and the soul needs to prostrate to God. Soul, you need to be prostrated. Your chest needs to be prostrated to God. Complete. Your being needs to be prostrated to God, not your body. The body is just an extension of that prostration, and you can then make it prostrate as you wish to God. I'm not saying putting your head to the ground is not allowed. I'm just saying that's not the only way. And that's how you portray it. And those morons that run around with a big mark on their head after 40 years of doing that or 30, they're the true Muslims and they have got the remnants of prostration. No, that does not mean that. Do you think all these people are actually prostrated, the so-called Muslims? None of them. So what does that mark mean? Nothing.
Hmm.
If they were actually Muslims, actually believers, not Muslim believers, yeah, they were actually believers, yeah, and then they did this prostration in submission to God, true submission to God, then you can say that is a remnant of that prostration. But just the fact that you bang your head on the ground and then the mark appears on your forehead does not mean that's the remnants of prostration. This points to the bliss in your face, your whole glow, fundamentally, if I can say it. The glow coming out of your face, the serenity, the peace, and the bliss. That is the true remnant of true prostration, which is in the heart and the soul, yeah, the chest are prostrated to God, of the believers. So that their example in the Torah. So this is an example, you see. It's telling you it's an example, and you made it literal, right? It's telling you this is an example. It's a metaphor, and you're making it real. It doesn't have to be. It can be any different way you can explain it, right? And the way I explain it, I think, is the best. That is the bliss of serenity and peace on your face. What better thing than that in prostration? Your eyes, you will see it in the eyes. I see in the eyes of those who are prostrated. I can see the remnants of the prostration in their eyes. I can see it, yeah. I don't know if others can or not. Their example in the Torah, and now it comes, and their example in the Injil, like growth, comes out its stalk, but it grows, but becomes strong, but sits over its base. They marvel the growth, to their fury with them, the rejectors. Promises the God those who believe and do the righteousness from them, forgiveness and reward great. So now here, look at this example. Does it mean it's supposed to come out and become a stalk? It's the example of how a seed grows. So your prostration starts with littleness and then it becomes absolutely permanent. That's fundamentally it. If you explain one sign, but how eloquent is the explanation in the Injil, in the
Beautiful.
Gospel of Jesus. So that's my example of why I believe the Gospel is much more eloquent, although it conveys exactly the same message, obviously. It's the same message, yeah. Constant, right? You got to be constant to God. You got to be constant in prostration and submission and obedience. And then you will be with remnants of the marks of that. Simple, huh?